Today I have a Betamax to work on, and this one actually threw me a bit at first because it started out as such a simple problem until I started noticing that there were a few other things that weren't quite right, and we got to the bottom of it after a while, but you'll have to watch to see what I found out. Today I'm working on a Sony SLHF1000. This was the top-of-the-line Super Betamax machine that Sony released in the North American market. It was also released in Japan, known as the SLHF1000. And this one's got some playback issues. This one was brought over from the island and hand delivered to me to work on today. So let's get started. First thing I want to note before I even touch it, that there's a piece of plastic that's broken on the front, on the loading mechanism here, or this actually part of the cabinet, I guess, but that is damaged. So I wanted to make a visual note of that when I inspected it. I have not even turned it on yet. I just turned the machine on. There's a tape in it. I don't know what's on it, so I'm going to play it and make sure that's something I can show if it will in fact play. We got video for a second and then everything mutes. If I put it in pause, I have a picture. Slow motion. If I put it in trick play using the jog shuttle dial, I have a picture. But it's not tracking, and as you can see, the counter display is not moving. So the counter display not moving tells me that we have a problem with it reading the control track. Could be a problem in the circuitry. It could just be that the control track head is completely contaminated. But the fact that the counter down here is not moving, that's telling me it is not reading the control track. The control track is recorded on the bottom edge of the tape, and it's recorded and played using the linear control track audio head. Let's get the top off it and give that an inspection. Okay, the audio control head is located right here. How it operates is the tape is pulled out from the supply spool. It's wrapped around the head. It goes around over these two retractable guideposts around the main, let's call it shuttle, that pulls the tape into place around, this is the P2 on this one. Anyway, right around the head drum, then it passes over the control head, and from there it goes over the pinch roller and capstan. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to inspect to see that the tape is actually following the correct tape path. It's hard to see with the cover on the cassette. Back in the day, we would remove the cassette cover off of our test tape so that we could load it without this cover in place, and that way it was easier to observe what was going on. But we should be able to see the tape passing over the audio control head. What I'm going to look for when I enter play is I'm going to look for if there's any tape curl. Is the pinch roller, for example, causing the tape to curl and pull away from the head? So I enter play and we'll watch together and see whether there's any. Oh, you see what's going on there? You can see it. You see the tape is starting to curl right here? This is likely why we've got a playback problem. It could very well be that the pinch roller is worn out. If a pinch roller is worn on one of these machines, it will cause the tape to curl. And if I put it into reverse search, where's my reverse? And you can actually see the pinch roller over here. Looks to be a bit worn. Let me get into shuttle. Okay, go to reverse search. Forward. I'm going to give that head a good clean as well. Make sure it's not dirty. And we'll take a look at the actual tape and see if the tape itself has got any damage on it. So to open up the lid on a beta cassette, you can either push the button on the side here or pull that little tab in there. But it's usually easier just to push this button. Looks like this tape that's broken. The lid lock is broken on here because there's nothing to push in. Oh, it just popped out. Okay, so it might be it was sticking. That's sticking a bit. The lid lock is sticking. there's a little tab you can see here, right down here. When it goes into the machine, it pushes that tab, and which is the same as pushing in that button, but it's sticking. Normally it locks it shut. That is to be expected though when you've got tapes that are 30 odd years old or older, 40 years old. Tape doesn't look to be in bad shape. I don't see any wrinkling on the tape itself, so it's not a tape issue. We'll proceed with cleaning the heads and just see what happens. So I got a Q-tip. We'll just soak it in some alcohol. And we're going to clean the audio control head. I'm most concerned with the bottom edge because that's where the control track is down here on the bottom edge. And there's a little bit of dirt on there, wasn't there? Okay, we'll just try that now and see if it plays back any better. So that interference that we were experiencing, that was just plasma-induced interference. Gotta be careful because I don't want to run into any copyrights for showing anything on here. I obviously can't play this tape, so I'm going to eject it. I've got some tapes that I can play, and I've got some tapes in Beta 1, Beta 2, Beta 3. I got several tapes that I can play, and I'm going to run several tapes through here, including the alignment tape. We can certainly try that. This has got both Beta 2 and Beta 3 on it. Yeah, it's got a... Where does it start here? There's a whole section of blank at the beginning. There we go. Okay, there should be color bars. And I'll set my tracking to the middle. There we go. Tracking set to the middle. Playing that perfect. No problem whatsoever. Go to the monoscope test. Now the monoscope test will have the dihedral adjustment on it. So what we will see is we will see the head switching point right in the middle of the screen. Well, actually it's at the top of the screen. This is the head switching point here. What that's used for is that's used for dihedral adjustment, which I don't need to do because you only need to do that when you change the heads. But what dihedral adjustment is, I'll show you where it's done on the machines. It just so happened that the head stopped in the absolute perfect place. This is the dihedral adjustment screw position. And you'll see that there are screws down here. There'll be one for the flying erase. And then there'll be one for the, there's the record play head. That's the flying erase head there. You can tell by seeing because it's only got one head chip. This one's got two head chips on it. One dihedral screw there, the other dihedral screw there. You only do one head. Typically it's either the A or the B. I forget, I think it's the B head you adjust. Anyway, you do one head. When you change the head, once you've done your tape path alignment, you do what's called your dihedral adjustment. Dihedral adjustment is the horizontal shift back and forth of one individual head so that it matches exactly on the track. It was more of a problem on the older head drums that used the actual three-piece head cylinder, which had the center piece that spun. I'm talking SL5000 series, SL6000, SL7000, SL8000 series. Starting with the 2000 series and the 1000 series, they went to the two-piece drum like this. This one was actually a Sanyo design, right? Well, I shouldn't say that, but Sanyo in their beta machines always used a two-piece drum. Sony went to a three-piece for their initial machines, although if you go back prior to Betamax, you go back prior to the half-inch open reel, it was a two-piece like this, with a slot between them and the head disc that spun in, the heads protruded through a slot, just like on this one. But anyway, Dihedral adjustment, you adjust one head to align it with the other one, and you use that split on the monoscope test tape, which was intentionally recorded with the head switching in the visual field. When you adjust it, you have to make sure your tension is also correct. So while you're setting it up, you adjust you bring your tension over. And you can see that the dihedral on this one is perfect. It'll always be a bit off when the tension's a little bit low or the tension's a little bit high. So you just manually move the tension over. What you're trying to do is right at this split point where they kind of fan out at a Y, you're trying to keep them lining up on top of each other. And as long as they are relatively close, your dihedral is fine. And the dihedral there looks to be pretty darn good. If we look at the black line here, if I play with the tension to get them on top of each other, you will find that they are really quite close. They're not splitting over. You know, if it was going like this, if the black line was forming a distinct Y, then you would know that your dihedral was way off. But like if you look at the split here on the circle, it's pretty good. So dihedral is fine on this tape. And that's how you do the dihedral adjustment. That's not how you do it, that's how you check it. How you do it is you put these screws down. They had little wedges. I've got a pair of them kicking around here somewhere. I haven't used them for, you know, for God, I don't know how long it's been. It's been probably 30 years since I've actually done dihedral on a Betamax machine. But when changing heads, it was something that was done. And a lot of times with these ones, this type of design with this head drum, they were set up at the factory with a microscope, so generally you didn't have to do it. It was more for the older drums, which the heads could get banged around just in shipment because it was on a larger disc. So anyway, how you did it was you put the two screws down using a non-magnetic screwdriver. Actually, you use a magnetic screwdriver to lower them down. They were made out of ferrite, so they were magnetic. But you could put them on the end of a screwdriver and lower them down through that adjustment hole that I just showed you on top here. And then you would play your tape and you would adjust one or the other. You put them down so that they were just touching the head, and then back one off like a quarter turn and turn the other one down a quarter turn, and then repeat, test it. Is it better or worse? If it's better, take the one off, the one that you backed off a quarter turn, back it off another quarter turn, turn the other one down at 1 quarter turn. And what you were doing is you were actually shifting the head block back and forth ever so slightly. Once you got it good, then you would back them both off and check it again, and if you were great, then you would remove the two screws through the access hole. This is what I was doing to adjust the tension. I was just pushing on the tension lever here to bring the tension up a bit so that the lines would line up on the screen and show me that my dihedral was good. Normally these machines run a little bit low on tension, which is good because if you have too much tension, you're going to wear out the heads faster. So they usually under tension them a bit, but you just bring the tension up a little bit just to check your dihedral, and then you're good. This machine, the alignment on here is perfect. As you can see, it is absolutely perfect. There's nothing to do on this machine as far as alignment goes, other than the fact that I'm going to rewind keys a little bit gummed up there. It's got beta 3 tape tests on it as well. I've got other tapes that have got beta 3 on them and beta 2 and beta 1. I'm going to test them. We'll let this thing run for a bit. We're going to clean the video head on here as well. We'll clean the video head, and then I'm going to run some tapes through, and we'll run this thing for a while and just make sure that everything is good. So let me get a piece of paper so we can clean the heads. We're going to use the good old writing paper on here like we do always and see what comes off the video heads. So I just got a piece of paper soaked in isopropyl alcohol. I just hold it up against the head drum, moderate pressure right on the slot there, and then just turn. And the heads themselves look to be clean, so maybe he cleaned the video head before but neglected to clean that. But this was actually quite dirty, as you saw when I used the Q-tip there, that there was quite a bit of dirt on the heads. There was one there, and then the other one was this one. I turned it when I cleaned it. This is a beta 1 super high band. This is just some stuff I recorded off of YouTube, some time-lapse stuff that I recorded off of YouTube years ago. And even though it's on YouTube, I probably could get popped for copyright, so I just want to make sure that it plays. So I can't play the sound obviously on this because it's regular music, but there is playing back a Beta 1 SHB. If I turn the super high band off, it doesn't play very well because it's the overmodulation. Same as if I turn on beta, super beta, but not super high band, it still doesn't look right. And when I turn the super high band on, then it looks normal. Incidentally, I recorded this on one of the last new old stock beta tapes. I've still got a few of them that were factory sealed. I had a buddy gave me some tapes he found, and I think they were in his dad's collection or something. Anyway, there was 2 or 3 brand new factory sealed beta tapes. This would have been like right from probably the last production of Betamax tapes, 2016 I think. Anyway, this is how the boxes ended up. Just a black box, Betamax. Proof of purchase, Betamax. But the tapes were made like well beyond after the machines were made, but they no longer make them. But this was a new tape. It's only been run through a machine a couple of times when I recorded it. And I got some more stuff that I can show you here. I got lots of stuff I can show you actually. I can probably put this one on. This is one that I recorded. I don't even remember what I recorded this on, but it's at the Vancouver Public Aquarium. I don't know what camera it was recorded on. It might have been recorded on a beta movie for that matter. Let's just see what speed it's in and what it is. This is a very old recording. It was recorded on a beta movie. It would have been recorded on a GCS1, I think. Yeah, the tape itself is deteriorating. Look at that. It just tried to contaminate the heads. That's the problem when you play old tapes. I could play this one all day long though. This is my own production. This is the Killer Whale Show at the Vancouver Aquarium that I recorded way, way, way back. And this would have been, I don't know what date this would have been, but it would have been in the 80s. I still have the camera this was recorded on. I'll show it to you guys. This was the camera that made that recording. And if it looks different than a regular beta movie, it's falling apart. It is. It has an electronic viewfinder. Most consumer beta movies did not. This was an expensive commercial version of the beta movie when Sony was making these things to try to break them into the broadcast market. GCS1 Super Beta movie. As you can see, it's held together with tape. The plastic has all become brittle and it's broken. This machine no longer works so. It's a work in progress that someday I might actually try to get this thing working. If I try to record anything on it now, I just get snow. The video head is oxidated really bad. Just the aluminum drum, the upper drum is quite badly oxidated. Could be the heads are shot, I don't know. These units never played back. They were strictly a record. But they did put out a really good picture. And was pretty much, there was another model out called the BMC1000, which I used to have, but I sold it years and years and years ago to a guy that just had to have one. The BMC1000 recorded, this is Beta 2. The BMC1000 recorded in Beta 1, super high band, and recorded the highest quality beta format picture quality that was available to consumers back in the day. And it was also mid-80s. 8mm came along, and then high 8, and pretty much put a nail in the coffin for the beta movie. Although the beta movie, as you can see, great picture. I mean, they really performed well. I'm going to show you my, I think this one here I can show. Yeah, I can show you this one. This video is actually up on YouTube. I don't even know if I've got this one up on YouTube or not. I might have this one up on YouTube. If not, I'm going to digitize it and put it up. But I know I've got one. I've got a Killer Whale Show up on YouTube. I just don't know whether it's this tape or whether it was one that was done on my high 8, because I was there a few times at the aquarium and recording stuff. So I'll have to look and see whether this one's up, and if not, I'll probably digitize this one and put it up. But anyway, that tape is playing fine. Let's go to the next one. This one is, tape is failing. Recorded also back in about 1980, I think this was 86 or 87. This was recorded on the same camera, the GCS1. I was down in Las Vegas and I walked around all evening and filmed the signs. And this one is on my YouTube channel. Don't worry about the blue, that's just the TV. The heads have clogged there and the TV is muting. I already digitized this tape a while back. And this is the, that's just what you hear in Vegas, or you heard at the time. That's just the natural sound. But this tape, as I say, I've already digitized this one and put it up on my YouTube channel. But I can show this one because I own the copyright on it. And this tape again is in pretty rough shape. As you can see, the tape itself is deteriorating and it's continuing to clog the heads, so I have to keep cleaning the heads. And it's a good thing I got this tape digitized when I did, because it's in worse shape now. I digitized it probably, I'm going to say 7 or 8 years ago. I think I put it on DVD, and then I took it from there and put music on it and put it up on YouTube. It's on the YouTube channel. This one's the part 2. I've done 2 parts. I did one prior to this, and I shot it with an M3 and a 3/4 inch deck. A couple of years before, maybe 80, 84, when I was down there using I think it was an M3, or was it a DXE1800? I forget. It was a 2-piece unit anyway. It might have been a DXE1800, but it was a tube camera that I was using, and a 3/4 inch VO4800 that I was walking around carrying. And I put that one up as well. But this is the raw footage. The reason I'm playing this tape is because one of his complaints was at edit points the picture would break up. So I'm watching this to see the edit points. This is in-camera editing, so of course there's no flying erase head. It does a crude backspace. Every time the camera stops, it does a crude backspace. Get a kick out of this case. This used to have a window that you could see through to see the display, and you can see that the clear plastic window turned a peg and then it just fell apart. That's what happens with plastic. This camera only had the ability to do 2 things. You could superimpose the date or the time, or turn it off, and then you got the counter, and you could set the date and time right here. On the side of the camera, it had 2 controls basically: sensitivity 0, AGC, and +6, and then you had your choice of white balance: outdoor, indoor, or 1 push, which you put the white lens cap on like that. And I wish cameras today all had a white lens cap, and then just pull that down, and it would set the white balance. I wonder if this would fit on the lens of my newer cameras. Probably not. But battery went in the front here. It had a power zoom with manual, but the manual button is actually broken off of it, so to go into macro, you push that button down, you can go to macro. And this was not an autofocus camera. This was a strictly manual focus camera. It had a power zoom here, fixed speed. It had this button called iris lock, though. That was kind of a cool feature. So if you had a scene that had high contrast in it, right, or a backlit scene, for example, you could zoom in on your subject, get a close-up of the face, for example. So the exposure was set, and then you push that little switch in, and then you could zoom back, and that would hold the iris at that position, so it would allow the background to blow out, but your subject was kept in focus, which was a very important feature. As I say, this camera, when this one was produced, this was a newsmaker camera. Sony had produced this camera specifically to sell to TV stations that could use Betamax to go out and do news acquisitions. For stations that didn't want to invest in Betacam, because Betacam was out at the same time as this, but this was a cheap alternative. This was a couple $1,000, and a Betacam was like the cheapest Betacam, which was record only, was more like about $10,000. So these were deployed into areas where the camera could get trashed, and but they put the electric viewfinder on it because real camera operators need an electronic viewfinder. So that was my first little beta movie, and I kind of kept it because, well, for nostalgia. But the handle on the top here is long gone. It had a little handle that went on the top. It shattered a long time ago, so that's what remains of it. The next tape I'm going to play is the Sony training seminar for Super Beta Hi-Fi. It was actually, this was on the SLHF1000. Recorded this February 28, 1985 at Sony Canada headquarters. and out in Richmond. And this is a recording in beta 3. So just want to see how this one plays. The lighting is going to be atrocious. This was using a SL2000 as the recorder. My tracking here, where's my tracking control? There we go. SL2000 as the recorder. And it was probably an HVC 2800 was the camera that was used to record this.
Little dial that allows you to...
I'm kind of concerned about the tracking of that pinch roller. This was recorded on a thinner tape. It was an L750 or an L830. To take a look, I think it was a 750. But it being a thinner tape, that pinch roller being worn a bit like that, it's going to cause the tape to shift a little easier than it would a thicker tape, which is causing some tracking issues. So I may have to look into finding a pinch roller. I should have one because I've got a couple of machines that are part machines that I can grab a pinch roller off of. And these have been sitting here for many years, so they don't have a lot of hours on it. But it's not looking that good. This is the cable that these machines use, the control T cable. It was a mini plug, but they reversed the tip and ring between them. So if you measure it with a meter, the ground is ground, but tip on one side goes to ring on the other, and vice versa. And that made that a bidirectional cable. It was only for this machine, the SLHF1000 and the SLHF1000 were the two machines that supported this.
Okay, David, you tried that? And what's your report?
Picture jumps. It records in 5 frames at a time.
That's me answering his question.
And then it backs up. And then every time it moves, the picture will appear to jump to commercial market.
I'll turn the Super Beta off too, because this was not in Super Beta. There. That'll improve the picture a bit.
One frame at a time, like they do in film. Not so with this machine. This machine it needs time to go from pause to synced up playback or synced up record, or whichever way you want to use it.
Back to the alignment tape. This time I'm going to play the Beta 2 Hi-Fi portion of the alignment tape. Again, this is a really thick tape, so the pinch roller errors are not going to show up because the tape itself, I think it's probably an L125, which was like a 30-minute tape. Much heavier tape. It's not going to be affected by that worn pinch roller as much as a thinner tape is. Okay, here's Beta 3 playback off of the alignment tape. I'm going to turn off that display if I can figure out which button to push on here. Data screen. There you go. Beta 3, 3 kilohertz, the tracking controls, dead center. As you can see, the machine is playing Beta 3 perfectly for the alignment tape. This is another old tape I've got. It's in pretty sad shape. This is a Beta 2 tape. This is up on my YouTube channel. This was a Sony demo tape that Sony had for a Betamax back in the early 80s, 83, 84 maybe. It was demonstrating Beta Hi-Fi. And the stores would play this over and over again. This tape probably had 500 passes on it. I'm just observing the tape. This is a very thin tape I'm playing now. I'm just observing to see if there's any tape curl or any tape movement here to indicate that maybe the pinch roller is bad. Because if you look at the pinch roller, I think there could be a fair bit of wear on it. So I'm just looking for any tape curl. Now you can clearly see it there between the capstan shaft and that last guide at the top edge of the tape. It's curling over. This pinch roller is going to need to be replaced. What I'm concerned with now, if I'll show you the tape counter here, watch this. So this is an L830 tape, a really thin tape that I'm playing on here. Now watch the tape counter. Every so often it'll stop, and then the picture will black out, and then it comes back like it's losing the control track. And I'm wondering whether it's losing the control track because the tape is riding up slightly and it's just missing the head. You see? That's a secondary problem. I may try to find a pinch roller. I might have one here because I do have a couple of old machines that I might be able to steal one off of that may fit this machine. And I'm starting to think maybe we may have a pinch roller problem. In addition to the heads just being dirty, because the heads obviously were filthy, it certainly is playing the L500s and the L250s no problem. But I figured I would stick a long tape in, a thin tape. This one is an L830 that this was recorded on, and it's beta 2. But as you can see, every so often it loses the control track for a bit. The controller comes off pretty easy on these machines. It's just one little clip that holds it in place. It's right here. We just pop that little clip out, and the pinch roller will lift off so that I can inspect it and see if I can find a replacement roller for it. As I say, I do have beta machines kicking around here that I could maybe steal a part off of if need be. But I'm going to be testing this machine for a bit just to make sure that it's going to be in good shape. Because you see, this roller here has got a fair bit of play on it. If we look at this, right, there's a fair bit of play on that roller, as you can see. I'm going to go see if I can find another replacement roller. We'll try that. So I have a new pinch roller right here. You can see the difference between the two of them. If we look at this one, look at how much the roller can move on the bearing, you see? Got a lot of play on it. If we look at the replacement one, it has nowhere near as much play. It's tight. A little bit, obviously. But nothing like the other one over here has. If we look at the two of them side by side, this one has just a slight little bit of play, and this one here has a lot of play. See the difference? You can actually see the metal collar of the roller coming out on the, not on this one. So we're trying a new pinch roller. Well, not a new one, but a newer pinch roller, one with less wear, let's just say. Because there are no new pinch rollers available for these machines. There haven't been new pinch rollers available for these machines in probably 40 years, or darn close to it. Pinch roller just goes back in like that. It sits on this little spring that pushes it back. I gotta make sure it's on the right side of the spring here. That pulls it back. This little spring down here, right? There's a little spring right there. It has to fit. To push this back, it fits on the inside. It fits right in that little groove right there, and that's what pulls it back. So we put the roller down and catch the spring, and then bring it over and drop it in place. It sits like that, and then we put the cut washer back on top. Like that. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, we'll see if this one works. Interesting. Watch the picture, if you can see it. If we watch the tape reel, make a note of where the tape reel is, the position of the tape reel when the picture cuts out. Okay, it cuts out right there. Okay, you saw the tape reel right there? Seems to do it once every rotation. I wonder if this tape has somehow been partially erased at the bottom edge. It's going to cut it right now. And it comes back. I wonder if this tape is damaged. I guess the only way to find out will be to go drag my SLHF1000 out and see whether I'm chasing down a problem that was created by maybe it's sitting too close to a magnet. This is sitting in the shop here. I mean, it shouldn't be. Although, hold on a second. It may have been too. I mean, there's a speaker close by, but I wouldn't expect. But these not being a real, like a hard tape to erase, it's just a regular ferric oxide type tape. I wonder if the tape's been erased slightly. I guess the only way to find out will be to try another machine. Make sure I'm not barking up the wrong tree and blaming a fault on the machine, which is a fault on the tape, because this is the only tape it's done it with. Let me go grab another machine. We'll try that. Okay, here's my SLHF1000. Let's just see if that tape counter freezes on mine too. Oh, it does. It does freeze on mine. So it's a problem with the tape. See? It does the same. Mine doesn't. Mine's been modded so it doesn't mute the video. There. Okay, that time it did. So, not a pinch roller problem. A tape problem. How many times have we been fooled by bad tapes? You see? Doing exactly the same thing. This is my machine that's playing on right now. Just so you guys know, this is my machine. Another SLHF1000. This is the one that has the... I do have screws in it. I thought maybe I didn't have screws in it. This is the one that's going to have the SLHF900 head drum. I think this is the one that has the 900 head drum that I swapped out because it seized up. So I put a head drum in from a 900 in this. So it doesn't have flying erase heads. Okay, so I guess this tape needs to be re-recorded. We'll have to redo that tape at some point. I'll just make a note of that tape is no good, and we'll go back to using other tapes, and I guess I might as well leave this pinch roller in it now that it's in. Might as well leave the pinch roller in it, because the guy that owns this, I'm sure, after seeing this old one, how it's getting kind of wobbly, will want the new one anyway, so I'll leave that one in. Okay, I'm going to leave this tape play on it. This was the Sony training seminar. I'm going to let this thing play. This tape goes on for like 3 hours, so I'm going to leave this thing play here for a while and just make sure that the machine continues to play properly, and we'll see what happens.
And I don't know if it says, I think it says somewhere in here that super beta is a North American term, that in Japan they call it high.
So I've been going for 28 minutes now.
Which is more logical, but I can say.
He was just saying in Japan they call it high band.
On the PLC button, the little switch on the bottom is high band on and off.
So this little chart is to indicate in a graphic manner how that emphasis takes place.
Anyway, again, 29 minutes. Been watching it now, no glitching. This is a beta 3 tape. Seems to be tracking up a lot better. I think if you remember when I was playing this tape before, I was getting a bit of tracking error at the bottom with the old pinch roller. So with the new one in, it's made quite the difference as far as tracking stability goes. I've now got it playing on the plasma. Here he's explaining how the beta hi-fi worked. They put traps in to trap out some of the carrier, so they could put the hi-fi carriers in place between the luminance and the chroma. Took out a piece of the lower sideband. This was how beta did it. VHS hi-fi just used an extra pair of heads and recorded at a different angle on the tape, but beta actually used the same head to record the audio hi-fi as they did the video, but they just shifted the carrier a bit and created a little bit of space between the chroma and the luminance FM, and then put extra carriers in there. Put 4 extra carriers, a left and right for the one head and then a left and right for the other. That's why there's 4 carriers, so that they don't interfere with each other, because when you're in beta 3 there's a little bit of an overlap between the 2 video tracks. So if the audio carrier was on the same frequency, you would get interference on them. These plasma TVs throw off a lot of interference. If I just get my hand and just put my hand near the head drum, that's interference from the plasma. My body's picking up the signal from the plasma and it's coupling it into the head amplifier. Just bringing my hand near it, I move my hand away and it goes away. Put it back on the LCD set. No interference when I put my hand there. No interference.
Would be to have some sort of
I was just bringing my hand like this, and it would interfere with it. Just get my hand in like this, and I was getting all that interference from the plasma.
Would do it. Now, these people came up with the term soft limiter, which is a dynamic emphasis circuit. And
here he's talking about the gap on the head, right? 33 microns for a conventional head, and then the Super Beta was 27 microns. So here we are, 2 hours and 26 minutes in, still working fine. Okay, this tape's already played through once and rewound, so I think it's pretty safe to say that this one's good to go. So now I'm playing the Beta 1 tape. Look how fast that thing spins. That moves at a pretty good rate with Beta 1. And a full L750 is only 90 minutes in Beta 1, or 60 minutes for an L500. But that was the original Beta speed. Anyway, this unit here is all fixed up. I've been running it now for several hours and everything's playing fine on it. So I'm going to button this one up and get it ready to go home. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.